The Lebanese army accused the Israeli occupation army of continuing its aggressions against the country's sovereignty. Politician Fritz Alphonse officially and temporarily took over as head of Haiti's Presidential Transitional Council. And Honduran authorities move on with the organization of the primary elections to be held next Sunday. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR Studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Stay with us. The Lebanese army accused the Israeli occupation army of continuing its aggressions against the country's sovereignty. The nation's army leadership reported a series of Israeli attacks against the civilian population in the south of the country and in the eastern Bekaa Valley region. It also accused Tel Aviv of still occupying territories of the land borders, threatening national stability and security in clear violation of the ceasefire agreement. The Lebanese army reiterated its support to the return of displaced citizens by removing unexploded ordnance, clearing debris and reactivating roads. The Palestinian Prisoners Club accused Tel Aviv of torturing Palestinians in Israeli prisons. The accusation followed the visits of legal teams to the Israeli prisons and the testimonies of Palestinians released by Tel Aviv. On the other hand, the Palestinian Ministry of Detainees and Ex-Detainees Affairs urged the United Nations to investigate the cases, which have also included the death of Palestinians due to mistreatment, lack of food, lack of medical care and sexual aggression. The Palestinian Foreign Ministry also joined the request for the investigation. Israeli forces continue their aggressions against the Palestinian people after destroying several camps in the occupied West Bank. The United Nations organization condemned the aggressions against the Jenin, Tulkarem and Nur Shams camps, denouncing the eviction of the Palestinians as well as the destruction of their infrastructure. The international organization warns that these war campaigns are causing the displacement of more than 40,000 civilians, considered the largest displacement of Palestinians in the West Bank in the last 50 years. The Zionist attacks are part of the expansionist plan of Israel called Iron Wall, with the aim of destroying the homes of millions of Palestinian settlers from territories occupied by the regime of Tel Aviv. In Syria, more than 300 civilians in the Latakia coastal region were killed in 5 massacres perpetrated by the de facto government. Human rights organizations denounced the death of at least 311 civilians, including in the coastal region, at the hands of the government forces. Witnesses say that since Thursday, the security forces of the de facto government triggered violent clashes in the coastal city of Jable and then spread to other localities in the provinces of Tartus and Latakia in the west of the country. Experts qualify this event as the biggest violence recorded in Syria since the overthrow of President Bashar al-Assad's government last December. In Iraq, heavy rains caused severe flooding in the streets of Baghdad and other governorates. In response to the problem, the authorities ordered the mobilization of emergency teams to mitigate the crisis in key areas where the water levels reached the height of the sidewalks. The flooding affected not only highways and unpaved roads, but also commercial establishments and some homes. Several governors declared a state of emergency in their respective provinces and encouraged residents to avoid road travel until the situation is brought under control. In Spain, Murcia authorities requested the national government to declare a disaster zone for the areas affected by the heavy rains. Official sources reported that the floods impacted other regions in southern and eastern Spain, including Catalonia, the Valencian community, and Andalusia. The rains led to the closure of roads and the suspension of schools and activities in social centers. For its part, the state weather agency issued an orange alert urging citizens to avoid unnecessary travel. The agency also warned that although the situation in the capital is not critical, the significant rise in the level of the Segura River has raised concerns among residents. U.S. authorities have issued warnings due to a wave of intense cold storms and snowfall expected during the weekend. According to the National Weather Service, a low-pressure system will continue to affect several regions of the country, with significant impacts on transportation and outdoor activities. The agency reported that the weather currently presents a variety of meteorological conditions, ranging from heavy snowfall in the mountains to fire hazards in the plains. Winter storm watches and warnings remain in effect, while other regions face risk of critical wildfire events. In Peru, weather authorities issued Friday a red alert in 8 departments due to possible landslides caused by heavy rains. The alerts were specifically issued to ravines due to the heavy rainfalls expected in several regions of the country. On the other hand, yellow alerts have been issued for the regions of Lambayeque, Piura, and Tacna, while 11 departments are under orange alerts. And in this context, in Argentina, the storm in Bahia Blanca left at least 10 people dead and thousands of evacuees, forcing authorities to implement a preventive power outage and to suspend all activities until further notice. In this sense, the municipality has warned about the magnitude of the weather disaster, which generates concern about the possibility of more victims. For this reason, the community is in a state of alert while the damage is assessed and assistance is sought for those affected by the devastating storm.
We are receiving support from the Argentine army, both with heavy machinery and boats. We are working to evacuate by river the patients from Pena Hospital, which is completely flooded, to the municipal hospital.
And now we have a short break coming up, but first remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates and more. We'll be right back, stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. Politician Fritz Alphonse officially and temporarily took over as head of Haiti's Presidential Transitional Council. Alphonse will have the mission to create the conditions for the holding of general elections in November 2025. Since February 2016 and until March of the same year, the now president was the Prime Minister of Haiti in the interim government of former President Jocelyn Privet, and now he will replace Leslie Voltaire until August 7, 2025. Voltaire found it impossible to control the gangs in the country, which upon his arrival owned 80% of Port-au-Prince and its surrounding areas, and today they have 85% of the capital. In Ecuador, 5 deprived of liberty were found dead in the penitentiary of the Litoral, the country's largest prison. According to the Service of Integral Attention to Adults Deprived of Liberty, the discovery took place Friday morning. The entity pointed out that the causes of the event are being investigated and added that the bodies are being autopsied. The institute also assured that there are no records of any riots by the inmates at the center. Since 2021, more than 500 prisoners have been killed in Ecuadorian jails. The Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, Africa CDC, warned that Ebola cases were spreading in 5 out of 146 districts in Uganda. In this regard, local authorities registered Ebola cases rose up to 14, also confirming the death from the disease. They further detailed that about 3 hospitals in Kampala have been treating Ebola patients or suspected cases, and information that had not been made public before in order to avoid alarming the population. Tracing contacts is key to tackle the spread of Ebola, which is transmitted through contact with the body fluids of an infected person or contaminated materials. So far, there are no approved vaccines for the strain of the disease that's infecting people in Uganda. Kenyan President William Ruto has urged South Sudan's President Salva Kiir and First Vice President Riek Machar to begin talks aimed at promoting peace. This follows an increase in tensions in the country after Vice President Machar's residence was recently surrounded by the military, and several of his allies were arrested as well. In a statement, the president urged the 2 leaders to abandon their disagreements and as the region strives for stabilization under Intergovernmental Development Authority. The events have intensified concerns about the weak peace pact ratified in 2018. In addition, President Ruto indicated that diplomatic efforts are underway to establish a lasting solution to the crisis. In China, the prototype of the world's most powerful high-speed train, the CR450, was formally tested on the Beijing Ring Railway's lines. The model, designed to provide commercial services, reached 450 km per hour in test speed and 400 km per hour in operational speed. The vice president of the Manufacturer Corporation Limited, Wang Feng, said after the test that this breakthrough represents a comprehensive leap in theory, technology, equipment, and operational management of this type of railroads in the country and the world. The newest train is faster than the CR400 Fuxing, also a high-speed train currently in service with an average of 350 km per hour. President Donald Trump signed an executive order on Tuesday in the U.S. to create the country's first strategic Bitcoin reserve in an attempt to make the United States the crypto capital of the world. According to White House cryptocurrency czar David Sachs, the currency will be held as a store of value, and Washington will not sell any Bitcoins deposited there. The reserve will be capitalized with Bitcoins belonging to the U.S. federal government that were seized as part of criminal or civil asset forfeiture proceedings. The executive order establishes a United States digital asset pool consisting of digital assets other than Bitcoin, such as Ethereum, XRP, Solana, and Cardano. And now we have a second tour break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English, that you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Find a short break, we'll be right back. Welcome back to From the South. Primary elections in Honduras will be held on Sunday, March 9th. 5.8 million Hondurans are enabled to vote in these elections, which allow citizens to select 3 candidates to compete in next November general elections. Candidates for 2,900 positions, including the president, 3 vice presidents, 298 municipal mayorships, and 128 deputies, along with representatives to the Central American Parliament. More than 5,000 polling stations will be set up for this purpose, and over 800 observers, international included, have been accredited to validate the electoral process. The National Electoral Council will implement a new data transmission system to monitor the progress of the results in real time. In Argentina, the government made official a series of reforms, among which stands out the suspension of the primary elections for the year 2025. The suspension was approved in the Senate with 43 votes in favor, 20 against, and 6 abstentions after having been approved in the Chamber of Deputies. The Argentinian President Javier Milei managed to consolidate this measure with the support of allies and a sector of Peronism. Although the initial objective was to definitely eliminate the primaries, political pressure led to limit the suspension to 1 year, which means that if there is no extension, the elections will be held again in 2027. In Peru, social organizations mobilized to demand the cancellation of the mining project that they claim will affect the water supply in the cities of Lima and Callao. The demonstrators gathered outside the legislature for a day-long protest against the mining project scheduled to be discussed in Congress Friday. The project seeks to build an underground mine that is said to affect at least 11 million people and would allegedly prevent them from having drinking water in their homes. The hearing for the approval of the project was scheduled for 9 a.m. Friday, but was requested to be postponed due to health issues of the judge ruling the case. Colombian President Gustavo Petro blamed armed groups in the country for the escalation of violence in Catatumbo. The president affirmed that the offensive of the armed groups has caused the death of dozens of civilians, including minors, for the control of illicit plant grown in Catatumbo. Petro informed that his government earmarked an additional $500 million for the region's security, social services, roads, and the substitution of coca drops. He also reiterated his administration's commitment to transform the Catatumbo region, ravaged by decades of violence, with concrete actions focused on the urgent needs of the population to live in peace. March 8, International Women's Day, was established by the General Assembly of the United Nations Organization in 1977. The United Nations established this day in remembrance of March 8, 1857, when 129 women textile workers in New York died in a fire while demonstrating against the long working days, low wages, and precarious working conditions. This Saturday, as part of the commemoration of a new international women's strike, they will take to the streets again to counteract the violation of the human rights of women and girls. This date seeks to highlight the role of women in the territories and communities. In this context, in Russia, President Vladimir Putin sent a congratulation message to Russian women on this International Women's Day. The Russian president availed himself of this international holiday to underscore the importance of women in the development of his country. He said this date serves to exalt gratitude, love, and respect for women. Putin said women are the ones who inspire men to perform noble deeds and to become true protectors of their families. The Mexico Museum of Modern Art held a conference on women's art and literature in Mexico City on the occasion of International Women's Day. The talk was led by Dr. Orly Cortés under the title Andares de la Hija del Ombligo de la Luna, and addressed the way in which female artists and writers have approached Mexico City and the difficulties the city poses for women. The speaker approached the mapping from the works by women artists and writers on the life of females in Mexico City, which has allowed her to create dialogues about novels and artistic works. The aim of the conference was to explore women's subjectivities, experiences, and identities from the point of view of women creators. And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok as well. For Telesur English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.